Well, good morning, Trani and friends, and welcome to Season 3 of Patio Ponderings. We are starting another ministry year using this format to think a little bit about the questions that arise in our readings and in our scripture stories each week. And this is episode 1. As we so often do in the fall, as we kick off our new ministry year, we begin with the story of creation from Genesis. And this year on Sunday, we looked at the second creation story found in Genesis 2. Sometimes I think we forget that there's 2 different creation stories. Certainly the one in the story in Genesis 1, we are likely more familiar with. It's the big cosmic story of creation, that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and He created the light and the dark and day and night. And He does so simply by speaking everything into existence. The second creation story is very different. It is the story of not just the creation of plants and animals and people, but it's the story of the creation of relationships and the connections that we have with each other, and it's a very up close and personal story of creation. The order of creation is very different in each story, and how God creates is very different in each story. So that's what I've been thinking about this week. It's something very elemental to Scripture itself, that there are times when we are reading these Bible stories and these accounts of how God works and acts in the world, and we see that there are 2 very different stories about the same thing. What do we do with that? What do we do when the stories might contradict each other, or when there's tension between the 2 stories? Sometimes that can feel really uncomfortable. And I think if we are ones who try to take the Bible literally, we get into a lot of trouble right away, because there is really no way to resolve the differences in these stories. They just are. The details are, in the stories, very different. So how do we think through that? What do we do when we experience contradictions and tension in Scripture stories? I think it might be helpful to start by understanding that the Bible is not uniform in its genre. The Bible is a collection of stories. Even within the same books of the Bible, there are different writers, and there's different types of stories. Some are history, some are poetry, some are letters, some are, as in this creation story, something entirely different. These stories are stories designed to reveal who God is, reveal truth about God, and to help us think about who we are in relationship to God. So if we think about that, that becomes more helpful, because God is so big and so multidimensional. I don't think there's a single story that could capture everything there is to say about God. There's not even a single story that could capture everything there is to say about how God creates in the world. Let me give you a quick example. My daughter and I went to the Grand Canyon this spring. The Grand Canyon is massive, and it changes from one point to another, and there's different features, and you can view it from the south side, you can view it from the north side. There's no way one single picture could capture everything there is to see in the Grand Canyon. So too with God, there's no one story that could capture everything there is to see or to say about God. And so we need different stories. So I think what we might look for is to understand that we're not looking for facts about God. We're looking for truth about who God is and who we are. And so even though the stories might be different, there's underlying truths that can reside with each other. So there is a truth that God is a cosmic God, and there is truth in that God is a very relational, intimate God. And that we can let sit side by side. Even though the details of the story contradict, those two truths can sit together. And I think the other thing that might be helpful, and we've talked about this before, is not to strip the mystery out of these stories. There's always going to be mystery in understanding the fullness of God, because God is the creator and we are the created, and we're never going to be able to fully understand who God is and how God works in the world. And so having different stories helps us in our imagination, but it also leaves us with unanswered questions. And so I think we need to just get comfortable with having those unanswered questions and having mystery with God. So what do you think? When you are in Scripture and you come across things that seem to contradict or tell a different story about the same thing that's happening in Scripture, how does that feel to you? Is it difficult, or does it spark your imagination? Is it distressing even? And that's okay if it is. Or are you okay with having that tension and that mystery? What do you think? As always, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Welcome back to the season of Patio Ponderings on this incredibly beautiful day where I am at a local park just enjoying God's creation. And I hope that we will see you all on Sunday or Wednesday. Have a great day. Bye.